Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to cilinixfxcapital, and welcome to this new video right here this Sunday afternoon. And also, it serves a little bit as a preparation for next week. I mean, obviously today, today has been relatively stable, but obviously over the course of the last week, we've had a lot of instability. Where we actually, Monday the 16th, we actually still had quite a lot of bullish momentum. Bitcoin at 108,000. But that has all turned overnight, of course, and more recently, or at least in this last hour, we also got some news. But we'll also talk a little bit more about next week. Next week we have some important economic data coming out. But yeah, we're just going to do a full update right here. We'll talk a little bit about XRP and Ethereum as well, given the fundamentals we know right now. And look, I mean, altcoins are very much correlated, all of them, to Bitcoin, right? So we'll talk quite a lot about Bitcoin here and the possibilities. And you should just expect most altcoins to follow that. I mean, at this point of time, the Bitcoin dominance is not necessarily going up or down in the last 2 hours or so, but ultimately the Bitcoin dominance is at an uptrend. So, if Bitcoin drops down 3% here, then you should expect altcoins to drop down 6%, right? That's kind of the general rule. But let's get right into it. So obviously overnight, we had an escalation in the Israel-Iran conflict, which right now we can directly involve the US as well, whether they want to be directly involved or not. And more recently, I think about a minute ago, the Iranian parliament approved closing the Hormuz Strait. So that's the strait, that's the waterway where most of the oil in the world actually gets exported through. Or transported through, so that's going to make oil prices shoot up, which in turn is very bearish for the world's economy, right? So not only the US or Europe, but also China, for example. So that's bearish, and that's also why we've had a bit of a decrease here. But right now, when we're talking about Bitcoin, it's very uncertain what's going to happen with Bitcoin, specifically with the news. Right, I mean, it very much depends on how the general financial markets open over the course of the next 24 hours, both pre-market and in New York open tomorrow. But it also very much depends on all these fundamental developments. I mean, it's quite obvious that if they're going to close the Hormuz Strait, that's going to lead to a reaction not only from the US, but also potentially from other countries in the Arabian Peninsula and around that, right, the Gulf states. So it's very much what Bitcoin is going to do. It's going to depend on the fundamentals. So if it's uncertain, which at this point of time, I would say it's quite logical that it's uncertain what's going to happen, I would assume that the most likely direction is down, right? So that we will see a further, call it what you want, but a further cascading effect down. And I also don't think that the reaction we've had so far from Bitcoin has been very good. I mean, Bitcoin has tried to break back above the value of yesterday, but it never really reclaimed that value with a lot of strength. So now it seems most likely, both fundamentally but also technically, that we're going to drop down lower. Now, Thursday or Friday, I actually made a video talking about, can the crypto market crash? And talking about Bitcoin specifically, we actually talked about this scenario, right? And Bitcoin can certainly drop down lower, right? So at this point of time, however, I do think, just to get that in there, I do think we'll find support, right? So the main support level we have right now is between 100,000 and 98,000. I do think that general area is going to hold, and otherwise, we have this level right here at 95, 94,000, which we can spike into. Is a possibility that happens, but for now, bearish momentum I do expect, but I also do think that a bottom is getting pretty close, and if 100,000, 98,000 doesn't hold, we have a lot of support right here at 95,000, and I think for now it's most likely that 100,000 and 98,000 for Bitcoin at least is going to hold, and that will get some stability, and then from that stability, again, based on the technicals and based on the fundamentals, we can make an analysis, or we can make a theory as to whether we can actually reclaim higher or not. But that depends so much on things we do not know in the future that it makes no sense for me to talk about that too much. Short term, I'd say in this instability, it's more likely we're going to drop down lower. So that is also what I assume for now. And then after that bearish pressure, or if we get some, it could also go the other way, right? I mean, if the fundamentals become better, we could easily spike into 105, 107. So that certainly is a possibility, but for now I assume lower, and I assume the same for Ethereum and XRP. You can see right now for when we're talking about Ethereum that it was already most likely that we would drop down a bit lower into 2200 and 2150. So that doesn't change. And XRP is very weak over the course of this morning. So that's not great to see. It seems to be one of the weakest coins at this point of time. So that seems more likely to drop down into 1.95. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts right now for XRP, Ethereum, Bitcoin. And then, like I said, I mean, most altcoins are just going to move in tandem or based on what happens with those other coins. So then next week we have a lot of economic data coming out, which we'll end this video with PCE price index data on Friday. And then on Wednesday and Tuesday we have the testimony by Jerome Powell. That matters a lot as well, right? But at this point of time, does it matter more than the other fundamentals? No. But those are my thoughts. I think that's what you need to know for now. If you do have any questions, let me know down in the comments. For now, thank you for watching. Take care and bye.